Amid the rising tensions of an expensive gaming market and suing the US government, Nintendo is a household name that has had many ups and downs over the years. It's hard to ignore the fact that they've smited a lot of projects coming out of the woodworks, both in games emulated from their library or the myriad fan projects that get a little too big for their britches. While a lot of other companies do similar things, Nintendo is the one reported on the most when it comes to these shutdowns. Whether that's because they're too loud about it, or because many fans of those IPs are upset that they won't be able to scratch the itch of something Nintendo will never touch again. A lot of it has to do with Nintendo's image, or their projected image of themselves. If they feel something makes them look bad, 9 times out of 10, they'll take action, even to the dismay of those who love that project. Recently, however, Nintendo has loosened up a lot in the world of indie developers. With the release of the Switch in 2017, it was a massive highlight that many indie games would be allowed to come to the console. From Undertale to the even more recently released Ruffy and the Riverside, a game which is heavily inspired by Banjo and Kazooie, it was a step in the right direction for the company, and even massively boosted the Switch's popularity, even if the console didn't run as great as its competitors. It didn't start there, of course. We can find that Nintendo was slowly opening up to this idea as early as the Wii. The eShop channel is pretty infamous for the amount of shovelware or repurposed games it had on it, but it never really seemed to be a problem for the console's wider fan base. In fact, among these shovelware games were some pretty major gems that got their claim to fame on the console. 2D Boy's World of Goo as an early example for the Wii, and even Shovel Knight later on the Wii U, things were looking up from Nintendo's previous era of AAA exclusives. And with the announcement of the Nintendo Switch eShop, alongside the promise that indie developers can now begin distributing their games on it, this was a big win for Nintendo overall. In fact, soon after the console released, Nintendo began publishing a new series called the Indie World Showcase, which has been consistently covering games of all shapes and sizes, from Minecraft to Risk of Rain 2, and even the more recent and upcoming Mina the Hollower. It's hard to imagine where Nintendo could go wrong with all of this. Enter the Nintendo Switch 2. No, not that part of it. Legend says that if you open the eShop today and head over to the recent releases section, you'll be met with a heaping pile of absolute stinking garbage. Row after row, scroll after scroll, an endless selection of AI-generated pictures and low-quality, pure slop games. Ever wanted to play that one game that everyone's copied? Or perhaps you've wanted to play that one that already exists with a different name in the Apple Play Store. Can I interest you in Only Tung Tung Sahur Up or 6-7 Nights? Don't worry, we've got plenty of selections on the Nintendo Switch 2 for you to play. Perhaps these don't really fit your demographic, and instead you're a lonely young adult looking to get your fix. Don't worry, there are nearly 3 times as many AI-generated anime games for you to buy and try. Spa Massage Boys, Love and Relax, Anime Fantasy Uni 2, Ecchi Secrets Fantasy Edition. You name it, we got it. In all seriousness though, this is a major problem. Not only because the sheer amount of these games bloat up and obscure the actual good stuff, especially the hidden gems, but largely in the fact that there are so many of them being slammed into the shop on a daily basis, that it's incredibly easy for someone to purchase one of these games and actually not get the product that they wanted. Many of the listings you see here are actually bundled in with other games, with most being discounted at nearly 80% off of their original price, and some that don't actually tell you off rip what games are in that bundle. It gets crazier when you look at the publishers for these games. I mentioned Spa Massage Boys. Taking a look at their publisher, Red Fables, they have 96 listings of games. From Sugar Daddy Crush and Date with a Serial Killer to an out-of-place zombie game bundle, you'll notice that these publishers will publish just about anything that they can. 17 Studio, the geniuses behind Bad Girls Tempting Night, have an astonishing 116 listings, with similar patterns in that they mostly pander to people with hentai games alongside random listings like Words in Word and Toilet Hero. Of course, all of these games have AI graphics through and through, and the games that stop at the promotional material are usually just poor imitations of games that already exist. Actually, how does a game like Real Hentai here even play? Well, to the surprise of no one, these are just copy-paste puzzle games where you either put together jigsaw puzzles or do something random like Tetris or Mahjong to unlock pictures of these characters in more scantily clad outfits. None of them have any substance really. The same phrase could be used for the shovelware games of the Wii era, but even those had to try to convince you to play them. Here, it's literally the same games over and over again, trying to fool a young and lonely adult to give into temptation and play them. Almost all of them have DLCs too, selling extra character stories and models, which really just equates to another set of puzzles you have to solve. Some games even still have that classic yellow tint, if you remember from the era of Twitter AI Ghibli art that tainted a lot of other AIs, to the point where it got easy to tell if a real person made it or not. I mean, take a look at Cookette and the Vanilla Crystal. Every image has a slight yellow tint in it, and this girl, who I can only assume is Cookette, is never consistent between panels and between her portrait. This one is pure AI slop, probably even down to the dialogue. But who knows, maybe it was an artistic choice. Considering the sun is so close to the surface of the planet, it's probably baking everyone alive. I've talked enough about the AI stuff, probably to the point where you get my stance on it, so let's talk about the other things you could find here. The copycats.
It's just Roblox.
Introducing Dig to Escape Obby. This all-original game that totally isn't something else and is definitely not a scam. This one is probably not as egregious as the others, considering it is a Roblox game, but it definitely still caught me off guard that a site with a majority of free-to-play games exists while this is being sold here for $6. And sorry, no, I will not be playing it to check if it actually plays like a Roblox game. If we want crazier, let's look at Forza Games' Modern Attack. This action-packed, totally not Battlefield mixed with Call of Duty title, alongside their other inspirational titles, Battle Force and Combat Forces. Want some horror in your life? Try Entrance 8 for $7.77 today. That's one I've definitely never heard of before. This one actually made me crack a smile when I saw it, and while I'm sure there was some actual effort put into the game itself, and I don't believe any of the art here is AI, the name alone is kind of a giveaway of their true intentions. I mean, come on, Sugar Dew Island? Someone's grandpa is bound to fall for this while looking up that one farming life sim game that everyone loves. That's a good segue to my next point. Someone out there is bound to buy one of these titles completely accidentally, whether it be an uninformed relative, or a kid using their parents' card for a totally real Roblox game, or, as previously mentioned, in a random bundle. Nintendo has a no refund policy on digitally purchased games after all, so once you hit that button to pay, you won't be able to get your money back. Scam completed. That's probably the general strategy for these publishers to make any money, period. I'm a little too optimistic to say that the average person would fall for this, but I'm also enough of a realist to know that some really dumb people out there would buy these games unironically. Some people see the discounted price tag and think they're getting a steal. And if you scroll Twitter for 5 seconds, it doesn't take a lot to surmise that an AI bro would purchase 20 copies of a game using AI if it meant furthering their agenda. They already do that to win arguments with their 50 alt accounts after all. The argument could be made that I'm harping on Nintendo a little too hard here. I mean, they aren't the only company that hosts games by both indie developers and AAA studios alike, so let's look at the competition. Right off the bat, I can tell you that yes, Steam does have their fair share of slop and AI on the platform. In fact, chances are that if you found a game on the Nintendo eShop, you'll find it here in the Steam store. But what sets Steam apart from Nintendo here is that Valve requires developers to disclose whether or not a game uses AI in any way. For instance, while it is obvious, Tales of Clodon here does use AI, and right here at the end of the description, you can see that they have to disclose that. They even admit that AI is used to generate images that eventually become processed and completed by humans. That isn't saying much in the way of improvement, but at least the fact that they are forced to admit it here allows people not to be blindsided by a game that uses AI at all without knowing it. Nintendo not having that requirement is a massive red flag. Another thing that's instantly obvious is that it's much, much harder to stumble upon an AI game on Steam unless you're specifically looking for it. You'd probably never naturally run into one outside of their recent releases tab. I won't say that their system is perfect, especially in their discovery queue, where you can be shown some pretty R-rated material, and of course slop, but most of the time you'll only find gems. Scrolling through mine for a while, I only found games that I would genuinely play. What about the Epic Game Store? Well, I didn't feel like looking through that one for long. I couldn't find any games that really stood out to me as AI, but considering that Epic CEO Tim Sweeney said that Steam's AI disclosure makes no sense, it wouldn't surprise me if they had a whole bunch of slop games stuck in there just like the Nintendo eShop. Once again, Steam walks away with another W. What's the point of talking about any of this anyways? To be honest, this video was entirely inspired when I was browsing the recent releases with my partner after getting a Switch 2 for myself. We had our laughs about it, but there was one game that really sealed the deal for me. The idea that anyone would purchase an anime clock of all things with these myriad AI-generated anime girls with a clock display is funny, if not a little sad. But it's the cherry on top of everyone on your friends list seeing you boot the game up at all that really inspired me to talk about it. The reality is, though, it's really strange and disappointing that this company that was so worried about having a bad image in the past just allows these types of games to bloat up their eShop. Sure, you could just browse the other categories, but how would you ever find hidden gems if you've never explored new territory? Right now, they are completely strangled, drowning among countless games with no real value. Of course, Nintendo still cares about their image somewhat, considering that they've attempted to sue Pocket Pair for their recent hit game, Pal World, even though it didn't really come to anything, and they're still occasionally DMCAing their IPs that aren't on shelves on emulator sites, as well as fan-made games like Super Mario 64 Builder, just as a recent example. If they put even a fraction of the effort that they do into DMCAing something, into cleaning up the eShop, I'm sure it would take no time at all to fix these issues. How would Nintendo even fix these issues, though? Well, considering that they would want to fix it in the first place, I happen to know of a certain spider YouTuber who wouldn't mind just removing these games from the eShop on the daily. She would also enforce a new AI disclosure policy moving forward. It would allow room for the real gems to shine and the scammy low-effort stuff to finally be purged. It would be at least 1 point towards the Switch 2's already controversial launch cycle. But if we're being honest, they'll probably just DMCA this video either way, since I spent a majority of it dogging on them. We'll see. Well, that's enough of that. It's time for me to play an actual peak video game. Big thank you to my Patreon members for supporting this video. Since I'm getting back into the swing of things, there will be some actual content going up there, for realsies this time, I promise. So in case you're wondering, yes, everything that has a trailer with it, doesn't matter what it is, has the Nintendo Switch logo pop into frame. I think that's one of the craziest things in the entire world.